Would everyone please take their seats at this time? We are about to begin.
We're doing it after the update.
All right, at this time, I would like to call the Student Government Days Town Council regular meeting to order. We will begin with Council Member Cottle leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this time, I ask that you all stand.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated at this time. Would the town manager please conduct the roll call? Town clerk, sorry.
Mayor Henderson,
Present.
Vice Mayor Nguyen,
Present.
Councilmember Morales,
Present.
Councilmember Green,
Present.
Councilmember Cottle,
Present.
Councilmember Gillespie,
Present.
and Councilmember Sapir.
Present.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. We will now begin with the presentations and proclamations portion of the agenda. Would the Intergovernmental Relations Coordinator please update the Council on the current Arizona legislative session?
Good morning, Council and Mayor. My name is Haley Ogren, and I am the Intergovernmental Relations Manager for the town of Gilbert. As you know, one of my primary responsibilities is to monitor and effectively interact with the state legislature on behalf of the town. Yesterday, we spent the majority of the day focused on the governor's tax simplification legislation, also known as TPT legislation, which is of great concern to the town. Current legislative proposals could cost the state and local governments anywhere between $137 and $310 million annually. This could devastate our budgets. The town is truly supportive of the tax simplification, but is in a fiscally responsible way. Yesterday, I was able to meet with the company proposing to create an online portal so our local businesses would have a one-stop shop to put in their tax information and pay taxes. I was able to meet with several legislators, including the Speaker Tempore, J.D. Mesnard, and Representative Debbie Lesko. Representative Lesko is chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee and sponsor of the governor's TPT bill. We expressed our concern over financial impacts, but also hope that positive negotiations would continue. Finally, I was able to attend Mayor Lewis's roundtable interview with 3 other East Valley mayors and the Arizona Republic. Much of the discussion was on the TPT legislation, and we were able to inform him by providing research on talking points on this issue. Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Mayor Henderson, we have 2 special guests who request to speak, which fall under communications from citizens. First will be Mr. John Lewis, and first will be Penny Pugh, and on deck is Mr. John Lewis.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor Henderson and Council. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Penny Pugh, and I'm the District Director for Congressman Paul Gosar, who's not able to be here today. I am very privileged to be here and observe your leadership abilities, and the Congressman is very proud of the youth when they take charge and interest in the affairs that are going on in our country, and especially the local affairs. Congressman Gosar is a member of the Natural Resources Committee and also the Government Oversight Committee. Very interested in the Superior mine that's going on right now. If you haven't had a chance to learn about that, it's in Superior, and it's going to bring a lot of economic value to Arizona. We have an office in Santan Valley, and welcome anytime any guests would like to come out, visit with us on local issues. We have a wounded warrior who is on staff, can help with veteran issues as well. So it's been a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. I also have some constitutions here I would like to leave with you, Mayor, if you'd like to share those. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next to the podium is John Lewis.
Mayor and Council, my name is John Lewis. I am a Gilbert resident. It is a pleasure to be here. I heard about this group, and I wanted to just come down and thank members of our Mayor's Youth Advisory Council for all of their service this year and the leadership that they have displayed, and also your leader, Jennifer Hood. I've heard some marvelous things about her and wanted to express that. Also to invite the Mayor and Council and to encourage you in your school settings to invite others next Wednesday night to the annual Mayor's Youth Leadership Summit. It begins at 6:30 p.m. at Town Hall. It will be held in council chambers. And the target audience is for 16, 17, 18-year-olds, but there's a little leeway where it could be younger or older depending, but especially those in high school. And leadership will be the emphasis. Members of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council will also be talking a little bit about some of the things they've learned about leadership. And there will be a keynote speaker, which has been a secret until this point. Are you ready? We have drum roll. The keynote speaker will be Fire Chief Colin DeWitt, who is one of our great community leaders. He has announced his retirement as of May and just felt like it would be great timing to have him come and speak to us. So looking forward to it. We encourage all of our youth in Gilbert to attend next Wednesday night. And again, I thank all members of our Mayor's Youth Advisory Council for their leadership this year and all that they have done to build the community. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, to have a congressional leader hear about this town council meeting and to send a representative, that speaks highly for all of you. And we thank Representative Gosar's office for sending Penny and for your community leadership too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. At this time, we will begin the public hearings portion of the agenda. Items 1 through 4 will be heard at one public hearing, at which time anyone wishing to comment on a public hearing item may do so. Comments will be heard from those in support of or in opposition to an item. Hearings are noticed for 9:30 a.m. and may be held prior to the estimated time indicated on the agenda. In order to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form indicating the item number on which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the council. The first agenda item under the public hearings portion will be council administration, which will be a presentation and discussion on social media and potential use by the town council. Staff, would you please approach the podium at this time for a presentation?
Good morning. I'm Zachary Kopecki.
I'm Varun Bajaj. I'm the IT director of the town of Gilbert.
So in the town of Gilbert, a few ways that we get to know with the residents is through the town Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the blog, and Instagram. Facebook kind of focuses on the videos and photos that we do around the town, whether it be events or anything like that. Twitter's more for events or just small text messages that people can get without all the hassles of going through videos and photos. And YouTube's for more of the videos, more lengthy. Basically, it just allows a lot more transparency between the people who are going around doing stuff in Gilbert and allows our residents to see what's going on. We also have a Twitter for the town mayor, or manager, sorry, and a blog. And then the mayor has a Twitter page. And the police department also has a Twitter, Facebook. And the chief frequently updates his profile. And then we have a 9/11 memorial. So the Office of Communications has introduced the Social Media Advisory and Research Task Force, or otherwise known as SMART. This group consists of 8 to 10 members, but it's kind of grown over that number. from the town and local businesses who are responsible for things such as helping to develop all social media feeds, including Facebook and Twitter, meet quarterly and provide recommendations on social media tools and strategies, assisting emerging departments in the town on social media, evaluating new social media platforms, updating social media guidelines and policies, liaising with technology and legal authorities in the town. Just a few members: ASU Polytechnic Campus, Phoenix Mesa Gateway, Burgess Coffee, and Gilbert Farmers Market, to name a few. Thank you.
I'm here to present some ideas for the council to utilize social media to get more in contact with the citizens. Some ideas that the IT department, along with the communications department, have come up with are using Twitter to live tweet council meetings so that parents or people from the community that can't make it to all the meetings can still get updates that are easy for them to get to their phones without having to watch the meeting on the television or online, so they can get it wherever they are at the time of the meeting. Another idea that we've come up with is using Google Plus to create a Google Hangout, which is a multiple webcam discussion forum that's viewable for the public. So council members can choose to have discussions with the community, with community members that are open to the public that may not be an official council meeting. And the third idea that we've come up with is using the Facebook, Twitter, YouTube page, Instagram, and Flickr to post the agenda for the meetings prior to the meetings, so citizens know when the council meetings will be, and so that attendance will rise, hopefully, in the future. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, staff. Again, if there's anyone who would wish to comment on this item on the public hearing specifically, please fill out a request to speak form and bring it up to staff.
Thank you.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question.
Proceed.
How many members of the community do you currently reach using this program, and how many do you expect with the new changes?
We're not entirely sure, but we can look into that and get back to you at the next meeting.
If there are no more requests to speak, I will now bring this public hearing item back up to the council for discussion. If there are no more questions, I will now, well, if there are no more questions, then I'm ready for a motion to be made.
Mayor Henderson, I make a motion to approve.
I second that motion.
Approve what? Be more specific. Approve what? Restate it.
Town Clerk, can we get some of the specifics on some of the plans that they had? Town Manager.
IT Director, could you please clarify how you would implement your plans for the council?
We would implement the plans by creating a Google Plus page for the town, and then inviting members inviting citizens to speak with the town council members at special Google Plus Hangouts that would be advertised on the pages, along with having the communications department be allowed to live tweet each council meeting.
Now that we've had that clarification, are there any motions to approve this plan?
Mayor Henderson, I make a motion to approve this new plan.
I second that motion.
Is there any more discussion? I call for a vote.
I would like to remind the council that they need to close the public portion of the discussion before they make a motion.
We did.
Did you close it?
Yes.
Thank you. Just one reminder.
At this time, we will now take a vote. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to the planning portion of the public hearing. This will be a discussion and direction on the Heritage District Master Plan and Parks Master Plan. Will the staff please approach the podium for their presentation?
Good morning, Mayor and Council members. I am the Economic Development Director, as well as my partner.
My name is Raymond Velasquez, and I'm also an Economic Development Director. Our main focus right now is the Gilbert Heritage District, and it's the downtown area that holds Gilbert's history and is seen as the symbolic center in the heart of the community. These are a few pictures, and it shows how already Gilbert has changed throughout history.
As you can see at the top portion of the slide, there is a picture of Gilbert back in the 50s, I believe, or not the 50s, but earlier than that, the early 1900s. And down below that is how it has developed now. You have the old historical museum, which is a major attraction, and it's a pride in our community, and it helps amplify the feel, the sort of old feeling that that district has, the heritage. And then these types of buildings on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen is what we are going to strive to bring to that community, or to that part of town, the Heritage District, those types of buildings, which will be discussed on the next slide.
Our goals are to urbanize the downtown while still keeping that history and small town feel. We want to promote reinvestment and attract new development. We want to improve pedestrian and vehicular circulation to make the town safe. And we want to also promote downtown as the cultural center of the community. Our possibilities are to improve parking and transportation, and to beautify the streetscapes, and to maximize the use of land.
Something we talked about yesterday in our meetings with those who have the information that the people that we talked to yesterday. Some of the ideas we brainstormed included making the area more pedestrian friendly and creating a homey feel, and beautifying the streetscapes. So we talked about lowering the street down into a one-lane road, and that would help reduce traffic through that area, and create a more pedestrian-friendly area, and then maximizing the use of the land. Because it's such a small area, we want to put as much as we can into that area that will help benefit the community.
One way that we maximize the use of land is called mixed use, and it's a single building structure that blends a combination of residential, commercial, cultural, and industrial uses. It creates an urban environment and allows citizens to live where they work and play. So it's mainly 3 to 2 stories, and it combines all these so that the owner of the business can be on the first floor, but at the same time live above. These are pictures of common mixed-use buildings that exist today.
And as you can see from the top left picture, that's the type of feel we would like to go with. Sort of an older type of style of building, but it still looks modern, and it still gives that heritage, that kind of ancestry feel to the building, and keep that downtown area looking similar but modernized to what it did in the early 1900s.
These are the few effects that we believe all these will cause. We believe it will create a modern and urban feel to downtown Gilbert. It will enhance citizen awareness of the history of Gilbert, will create cleaner and more open streets, and will attract business and increase Gilbert's revenue substantially. Thank you, Council, and we're open to any questions.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question for staff.
Proceed.
How do you plan on financing this?
Through the investors that are interested, through their businesses and any.
As we work in bringing in businesses into the community, we will be asking for funding to help create an environment that will increase not only their business revenue, but to increase their business revenue, which will in turn create more tax revenue for the city of Gilbert.
Thank you. Your PowerPoint is very informational.
Thank you.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question.
Please hold all questions until the public hearing portion, until I bring the topic back up to the council for discussion. Thank you, staff. If there's anyone who would wish to speak on this matter specifically, the planning of the Heritage District Master Plan, please fill out a request to speak form and bring it up to the town clerk. If there are no questions or requests to speak, I will now close the public hearing and bring this item back to the council for discussion. Now you may ask your question.
Staff, may I ask how you plan to attract businesses to the Heritage District?
Right now, downtown Gilbert is probably one of the safest towns in Arizona, and we believe that this will cause businesses to be attracted to us and want to create their businesses and expand in downtown Gilbert, where we can really start their business so that they can expand to Arizona and possibly even farther than that.
Mayor Henderson, I have another question for staff. Have you asked the people if they would like this change?
We have not discussed the possibility with the community yet, but we plan on promoting the idea to the community, and we believe that they will be in support of this idea because it not only beautifies and brings prosperity to this portion of Gilbert, but it also brings kind of a better feeling to the community.
Thank you.
Mayor Henderson, I have another question for staff. You spoke about narrowing Gilbert Road down to a 1 lane in each direction artery, but right now I know that it is a major traffic artery for that section of town, so how do you plan to deal with this extra traffic that will now be filling the Heritage District?
We do not know at this time, but we will research into that and present that information to you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. As far as the building structure goes for the new idea with the mixed-use buildings, would you build on top or tear down and rebuild?
Well, some of the buildings that are currently there, they are already 2-story. So we were talking about the possibility of remodeling those buildings, and then any new structures that we bring in, because there's a lot of open space. Well, not a lot, but the space that's there, any available space, we would bring in those new buildings. But the existing buildings, we would try to renovate those buildings.
we don't want to tear down the buildings of downtown Gilbert. We want to keep everything and keep that small town feel.
And I know you said you hadn't talked to the people of Gilbert as far as with their town, but have you talked to the business owners?
Yes, currently we have several business owners that are interested.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Have you discussed specific sites that you would like to build or create these mixed-use buildings?
Yes, we have. We have a couple sites picked out specifically. We can get that information of those specific sites and bring that to you at the next meeting if you would like, council member.
Okay.
Are there any particular types of businesses that you're hoping to attract, or any particular facilities that you're hoping to use this land to accompany?
Mainly restaurants, and we spoke also of education. So mainly we just want to expand education and any businesses, new restaurants that also are interested in the downtown Gilbert.
We also would like to bring in entertainment venues, so theaters, like the theater that's down there, I believe it's the Hale Theater. More theaters like that, basically more entertainment to that part of the community. So it kind of creates a feeling of a homey feeling down there, where you can take your family and go to a restaurant and then go to a theater or in any entertainment center down there.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question. Do you have a timeline for how you're going to implement your master plan?
I believe the discussion yesterday was this would be sort of a long-term thing. So within the next, in the next 20 years, we'll be attracting businesses. And then in the next 30 years, we hopefully, we hope to see these types of buildings coming up in that area. We already have plans for a parking garage in one of the slots there. So hopefully that'll attract businesses because they know that the customers have places to park. And we believe that that'll help bring in businesses for the long-term effects.
And when do you plan to start?
We are already attracting businesses currently, and we're discussing the possibilities of having these businesses move into this district.
What are the current plans to finance this operation?
One of the plans we had was to expand the light rail to Gilbert, Arizona, and we believe that the revenue created by that through sports, anything really, through the light rail would really finance all of our plans.
Thank you.
Mayor Henderson, I have another question. I know Councilmember Nguyen asked about financing and how exactly you would finance, but do you have an estimation of how much funding you'll actually need?
We don't have that right now, but we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, staff. If there are no more questions, I am ready for a motion.
Mayor Henderson, I make a motion to approve the new Heritage District Master Plan.
Mayor Henderson, I second that.
Is there any further discussion? All right, we will now vote on this matter.
Thank you.
Motion carries 5-2. Are there any requests to speak on this? Are there any requests to speak on this? Okay. Now we will move on to the Code of Gilbert agenda item, which we will conduct hearing and consider adoption of an ordinance amending the Code of Gilbert, Chapter 62, Traffic and Vehicles, which would prohibit texting while driving. Will the staff please approach? I apologize. We will now move on to the Parks Master Plan, which is still a part of agenda item 3.
Good morning, council members and mayor. I am Brittany Love, and I am the Parks and Recreation Manager. I will be speaking to you today about the Heritage District and tourism. The Heritage District is Gilbert's downtown area, and it allows visitors to come and see what has to offer as far as local and outside visitors. Visitors are able to spend money in the town on leisure activities, restaurants, any entertainment, and which overall is beneficial for town and businesses. It also allows the community's heritage to be reflected and allows the community to come together as a whole. The new Heritage District app is an app designed to allow visitors to receive information just on their phones and be able to have that information available when they are in downtown Gilbert. A little bit more specific, in the final stages for the Heritage District app, it will be coming live in March. The app will be very beneficial to tourists as they visit the downtown area. They'll be able to have the information, whether it be maps or close locations or businesses nearby. There's some pictures there at the bottom of this screen. One of the ideas that we had was to put a visitor center in the Heritage District so that it would provide information for Gilbert, so whether it has some brochures available, so when tourists are able to, when they're coming to visit Gilbert, they'll be able to access that information. It will have the established location plan for the visitor center would be in the Heritage District, ideally. Kiosks could also be placed throughout Gilbert at the prime locations that are in Gilbert, and that will allow more advertising for tourism in Gilbert to overall create more revenue for the town of Gilbert. And that is all I have. Are there any questions?
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. How do you plan to finance this visitor center and these kiosks that you plan to place?
We do not have that information at the time, but as far as I do know, we do have several local businesses that are willing to help out with that funding.
According to your slideshow, it says that the Heritage District app is already live. What has been the response that you have been getting as far as from people actually downloading the app and utilizing it?
As far as the app, it has brought a great deal of interest, being able to allow the tourists to be able to access that information. But because it is so new, we don't have exact responses yet to it.
Thank you.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. How do you expect to promote this new app?
In regards to social media, we're hoping to be able to connect with that and allow it to advertise it a little bit more.
Mayor Henderson, I have another question. Do you have an estimate about how many tourists come to Gilbert currently?
Yes, we do. We have about 30,000 to 40,000 a year.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. Do you have locations in mind for the tourist information centers?
Yes, we do. Ideally, we would like to have it in the Heritage District as well, just to keep it more of that small town feel, because most of the primary locations of our heritage is found in downtown Gilbert.
Thank you.
Would you please clarify on what exactly the plan is for implementing these kiosks and these information centers throughout Gilbert?
As far as the visitor center would be more of the main location to have brochures, a gift shop, as I had in my presentation. But the kiosks would allow it to be not only just not only just in downtown Gilbert, but in other places around town as well.
Thank you.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Would your current plan attract more tourists? Have you discussed with businesses the potential to, or I should say, have you discussed with touring businesses their willingness to make Gilbert a part of their tours that they give people that visit our state?
At this time, we have not discussed with other businesses outside of local Gilbert, but as far as local businesses, we have, and they're very interested in that visitor center as well.
Mr. Mayor, I have another couple of questions. Are there any plans to work with local businesses to help fund the centers?
Yes, definitely the local businesses would be our primary funding for that, just because it is right along downtown Gilbert.
And also, are there any plans to have any of these kiosks or visitor centers in other locations outside of the Heritage District?
Yes, so for the visitor center, that would be located in the Heritage District, and the kiosks would be located outside, whether it be at the malls or any other restaurants outside of the Heritage District.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for the staff? If there's anyone who would wish to speak or comment on this matter, again, I request that you would fill out a request to speak form and bring it up to the town clerk. If there are no questions, I now close the public hearing and bring this item back to the council for discussion. If there is no further discussion, then I am ready for a motion to be made to implement these visitor centers, the visitor center, and these information centers and the kiosks throughout Gilbert to further attract tourists throughout the Heritage District.
Mayor, I move to approve this plan.
I second that motion.
Is there any further discussion?
Thank you.
All right, I will now call for a vote. Motion carries 4-3. Thank you, staff. Are there any further presentations in the planning agenda item? Please approach the podium at this time.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. My name is Caitlin Chrome. I am the Parks and Recreation Director.
And I am Alyssa Ferguson, and I am the Recreation Manager.
And we're here to present today our proposal for the master plan. The purpose of the plan is to set the direction for parks and recreation programs, facilities, events, and services offered by the town over the next 10 years and beyond. How we put together the master plan is we had a couple public outreach and data collection events, such as focus groups, best practices surveys, and assessments of current parks, recreation programs, and recreation facilities. And the key results that we got out of all of that was that what the people of Gilbert feel that is most needed is an adaptive recreation facility and programs that include aquatic centers, fitness and wellness programs, and that the groups of people that are least served in our town are those with limited financial needs, physical limitations, and teenagers. Now, the investment priorities that people feel that we have are the aquatics and recreation centers. And what we plan to do to create these things are add additional fees for parks and facilities, increase bed tax, and spend more in the general fund. Now, our proposed recommendation is to create a multi-purpose recreation facility with a specific focus on teens and those with special needs, and attach a pool with both leisure and competitive amenities. The location would be town-owned land on the southwest corner of Germain and Greenfield Road. It's north of the GYSA soccer complex. And I'm going to hand it over to Alyssa here to discuss funding.
Okay. So to fund this, we were thinking of developing partnerships that could share the cost of the construction of the recreation center. And we would work with Chandler, Mesa, and Queen Creek to create the East Valley Recreation District, funded through new tax on sporting event ticket sales, sporting goods sales, or other transactions, or through relocating existing sales taxes on recreation goods sales. And we would need to issue a construction bond of $8 million. And the estimated cost of ongoing operation is $800,000. And to gain revenue, there would be fees and charges for rentals, memberships, concessions, and activity fees. And we would develop partnerships with the Special Olympics, Boys and Girls Clubs, and YMCA to get other people into it. And we'd get big company sponsorships such as Google and Apple to have naming rights. And that's it. And we are open for any questions.
Thank you. Have you already made contact with Chandler, Mesa, and Queen Creek to begin discussing the funding of such a plan?
We haven't. I don't think so.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Have you decided on the amount of tax that will be levied against sporting goods purchased in Gilbert? And have you researched the amount of sporting goods that actually are purchased in Gilbert? How much of the funding do you expect that new tax to generate?
We don't know exactly how much is already spent on sporting event and ticket sales, because it's not just us, it's also Chandler, Mesa, and Queen Creek, so we still need to talk to them. But we are estimating raising the tax in the area between 3 and 5%. We don't know the exact amount of revenue, but we will get back to you on the next council meeting.
Mayor Henderson?
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. You stated that the revenue is $700,000, but the ongoing cost of operation is $800,000. And you also mentioned partnerships with other programs. How much money would the partnerships bring to fill in the extra $100,000 we need to fill in that?
We don't know the exact amount at this time, but we can research that and get back to you at the next council meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Where do you plan to locate this recreation district?
It's over down by Campo. It's on Germain and Greenfield. It's like right next to the GYSA soccer complex.
And we feel like this would be a good location because with the addition of Campo Verde down there, there's a lot of new neighborhoods popping up and places that not a lot of people have to go to, and a bunch of open land out there.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. How large would the aquatic structure be?
We don't have a specific amount of how big it would be. We do know that it would be able to have not only a competitive pool, but also recreational for families and stuff.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question. Have you considered attracting professional or national competitions to this new aquatic center? And do you have a timeline in mind for construction?
We do not have an answer for you right now, so we'll get back to you at the next council meeting.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. Have you reached out to the public as far as their wanting this, or was this brought up from many people, or how did it come about?
Yeah, again, with the public outreach and data collection events, focus groups, and then we had a ton of statistically significant community telephone surveys, a couple of meetings. So we have a bunch of different ways that we got data from people of Gilbert.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. As far as the facility itself, what would be in it besides the aquatic center?
Places, fitness centers, tons of recreation rooms that people could rent out for parties or classes that would also generate revenue. Again, back to the fitness center, people could purchase passes to be able to use that, again, generating net revenue. We don't have the exact specifics of it, but that's just generally what we plan to put in there.
Mayor, I have a question. What aquatic centers are we already utilizing in the area of Gilbert?
The only ones that we have right now are the ones from the schools, and it's harder for the people, the public, to use those because schools use that for their own swim teams. And in the next year, we're planning to demolish the Gilbert Junior High pool, so we need something else.
Mayor Henderson, I have another question. As far as operational activities, would that be the town's responsibility, or would organizations take care of that?
We would get organizations to help take care of that.
Could you be more specific as in how?
Like, we would get YMCA and the Special Olympics and Boys and Girls Club to help like take care of like all the stuff that would be going on there, to help them create their needs that they need and for the public.
So essentially utilize those corporations as sponsors.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any further questions from the council?
Mayor, I have another question. What about in terms of public recreation programs or programs run through the town? Will we be able to use those facilities for things like that?
Yeah, we would. Like, we could have like rec basketball, volleyballs, and all that.
Vice Mayor Nguyen, are there any requests to speak on this agenda item?
None at this time, Mayor Henderson.
Well, if there are no more questions, I now close the public hearing and bring this item back to the council for discussion. What it seems like to me at this time is that you don't have very many specifics on how you will actually implement this plan. And so rather than voting on this at this time, I believe that you should come back to the next meeting with more information on exactly how we are going to implement this, and also contact Chandler, Mesa, and Queen Creek and begin discussing partnerships with them so that we can get the East Valley Recreation District set up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further presentations from the planning agenda item at this time? Okay. We will now move on to agenda item number 4, which is the Code of Gilbert, which will conduct hearing and consider adoption of an ordinance amending the Code of Gilbert, Chapter 62, Traffic and Vehicles, prohibiting texting while driving. Will the staff please approach the podium for the presentation?
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Tuan No, and I'm part of a project team, including Mia and Pradisha, to propose a Gilbert law or ordinance regarding distracted driving, including but not limited to texting while driving. With your permission, I would like to propose a plan and recognize, I guess, a new ordinance to propose towards distracted driving. And so we've done some research and come up with a solution to this. And the ordinance would go as follows. A person shall not operate a motor vehicle on a street while using a handheld wireless communications device to compose, manually, send or read a written message for the purpose of non-voice interpersonal communication, meaning that they cannot email, text message, or instant message while operating a motor vehicle. Now, we do realize that there needs to be exemptions to this section, and we would like to exempt the following people from this law: law enforcement and public safety personnel, drivers of authorized emergency vehicles, and public transit personnel. A violation of a section is a non-moving civil traffic violation, meaning it results in a ticket. We would also like to propose that if a person violates a section and is not involved in a motor vehicle accident, the civil penalty of not less than $100 plus any other penalty assessment authorized by law should be issued. If the persons, however, should be involved in a motorized vehicle accident, the person is subject to a civil penalty of not less than $250 plus any other penalty assessments authorized by law. Now, if there aren't any further questions so far, I would like to turn it over to Pradisha for statistics.
Carry on.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and Council. I have a few statistics for you on the imminent threat of distracted driving. 18% of injury crashes in 2010 were reported as distracted affected driving crashes. Text messages creates a crash risk 25 times worse than driving without being distracted. And sending or receiving a text takes a driver's eyes off from the road for an average of 4.6 seconds. That's the equivalent of 55 miles per hour, driving the length of an entire football field completely blind. Passing this ordinance would decrease the number of crashes and the severity of those crashes.
My name is Mia Rivera, and I'm a resident of Gilbert. And yesterday I rode along with a police officer, and I noticed that there were many people that you could tell that they were on their phones while they were driving, and it just made it even more important that we pass this ordinance, because it's obvious to see that it can be hard for a police officer to tell if they're texting or driving, but that is why we want this ordinance to be distracted driving, so that because you can tell that they're distracted while they're driving. Thank you.
Now, a similar ordinance, ordinance number 10966, is effective in Tucson and has been successful so far. So I'd like you to take that into consideration when discussing this. That is also, are there any questions?
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. Right now, do you have an estimate of the number of automobile incidents that are caused by texting and driving?
Well, you cannot really put a specific number to that because it's distracted driving in general. So it can be either texting or someone simply dialing a phone, because as of right now, calling on a cell phone is not illegal. So distracted driving comes from that as well. So we do not have statistics on specifically texting while driving incidents.
Your ordinance plans for specifically attacking nonverbal use of a cell phone or other means of instant communication. How would you address the matter of actual verbal conversations on the phone while driving? Because it is debatable that that is actually another form of distracted driving.
Well, with this ordinance, it would not disregard talking on the phone while in a motorized vehicle. So with this ordinance, speaking on the phone is still legal since it's necessary in some cases.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. You said that the ordinance was put in place in Tucson and you found it successful. What information did you gather from Tucson that you felt had made it successful?
Well, as of right now, the ordinance is still fairly new. It was just proposed last year in February, so statistics haven't really showed that much yet, because it just simply gives another reason, or an officer another reason to make traffic safer in Tucson. And so any use of a cell phone in Tucson is not allowed at this moment.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. The proposed ordinance mentioned exceptions to the rule of not using wireless communications while operating a vehicle, but gave exceptions for public servants such as police officers and public transit drivers. How are we going to determine the validity of a distractive device, such as a computer or a cell phone? They could be using it to forward their public service, but there exists the potential for an officer to misuse it, such as checking the results of an Iowa caucus.
Well, it's essential for police personnel and firefighters to use this technology because it is furthering them in their job. And on what you said about them misusing it, police officers on a daily basis see the consequences, the crashes of texting and driving or distracted driving. So I'm sure they're aware not to misuse the technology.
And if you're talking about the computers in police vehicles, I was in a ride-along just yesterday, and those computers specifically show maps and when calls are given from the station. So if they're on call, that is the map that shows all the different vehicles and different calls to go to. So you can't really misuse that. It's not a general computer like you and I have at home.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question. I know that with advancing technology, more and more we are seeing computers that are built into cars that allow things like texting and email. So would the ordinance apply to those as well?
The ordinance applies to all distracted driving, so that includes texting, using a cell phone or smartphone, using a computer, eating and drinking, grooming, reading, using a navigation system, or watching a video. So it would include that as well.
Thank you.
So far, however, we are limiting to cell phones and other handheld wireless communication devices. However, if it's, let's say, Bluetooth or voice activated, that goes into a whole nother section of distracted driving. We go on with lists and lists of different things that we do. For example, the public or service announcements we did, we've covered a variety of distracted drivings, such as eating or grooming. So this ordinance is specifically for cell phone use.
Where does music use play a part as far as distracted driving? Because I've known people to change their songs on their iPod or their iPhone while driving. Does that fall under your category of distracted driving?
Yes, if they are on their phones, if anything that requires you to take your eyes off the road for a matter of seconds, even to look at your phone, should be considered distracted driving, especially if you're scrolling through a playlist. Whereas if you have a radio, I mean, many people just press a button really quick. They can do that without looking. That's not really considered distracted.
On another note, an officer driving by really can't tell whether the person's using the cell phone to text message, or let's say iPod to text message or email or instant message, or simply change the song. So I believe this will fall under the ordinances as well.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question. Where does the proposed ordinance fall with respect to the use of headphones while driving? Would that qualify as distracted driving, or would it not?
Well, once again, this is specifically limited to cell phone use, so headphones, let's say, such as a hearing device, can't be banned or making a law against, because all those exceptions would just lead into a gray area where the law wouldn't be black and white anymore on that topic. So a police officer can't really use ethics to judge on that decision.
So am I correct in understanding that the ordinance would prohibit any?
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
Have you worked out a plan for the consequences as far as tickets and fines go?
Yes, as mentioned previously, if the person were to be involved in violating this section, not involved in traffic violations, the fine would be no less than $100, and any other penalty assessed by authorized by law. If the person were to, however, be involved in a traffic accident while violating this section, the penalty would be $250, no less than $250, and as well as other assessments authorized by the law.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question. Are there any plans in the works to create ordinances that deal with the other types of distracted driving, not dealing with the handheld device that you've spoken of?
We're first going to put this ordinance, try to put this ordinance into place and see the effectiveness of it, and then further on to the other ordinances.
What is the public opinion regarding this ordinance? Is it felt by the public that this is absolutely necessary?
Well, obviously, to, let's say, a specific group, let's say teenagers, that are common to use their cell phones while driving, are obviously going to oppose this ordinance. So we really take in regard public safety rather than opinion. And because if we're opinion-based, this ordinance would not pass at all.
Thank you.
And regarding to what Councilmember Godlowski said, it's really impossible to make an ordinance disregarding all distractions while driving, because you will be distracted at some point or another while driving, whether it's a little thing such as something dropping or eating a cheeseburger, let's say.
And to further on your question, 40% of American teens say that they have been in a car when the driver used a cell phone in a way that put a person in danger. So they do believe that this is a danger.
Mayor Henderson, I have a question. Where exactly are you getting your statistics from?
We are getting them from different sources, including the Monash University, the VTTI, and Carnegie Mellon. Just different studies that have been done.
So you mentioned that the ordinance in Tucson has been going successfully, though you also mentioned that you did not have any specific statistics for that success. What evidence do you have that it has been a success in that town for lowering, say, traffic accidents which are caused from distracted driving?
I don't want to put it in a way that makes it sound bad, but it gives an officer another reason to enforce public safety. So even not looking at statistics, an officer can still pull someone over, let's say, for texting and driving, and further the public safety of other drivers.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question. Have you discussed the methods of determining fault with distracted driving with this new ordinance? In other words, if an officer could prove that someone was using a cell phone at the time of accident, could that be used in determining fault?
Yes, if they could be able to prove that was true, they could use that, and the fine would be applied to them.
So am I correct in understanding that if there was a motor vehicle that violated a traffic law and was involved in an accident with another vehicle that was not violating a traffic law but using a cell phone, would the person using the cell phone be considered at fault still?
Councilmember, let's use a statistic. Only about 2 or 3% of applicants are hired to be police officers. These police officers or applicants are put through a vigorous set of tests, and only the best of the best are insured to get in. So you can pretty much rely and expect integrity out of these police officers. So if a police officer were to say, I saw that person texting and driving, or using their cell phone while driving, I believe that the court system would honor that police officers say.
I wasn't asking about police officers so much as everyday motorists in the matter.
I don't quite understand your question. You're saying if it's able to be proven if the person used their technology, is that correct?
No, I asked if there was a person that was driving while using a cell phone and was involved in an accident with someone that was violating a previously established traffic law, how would a police officer use the law to determine fault?
Both subjects would be at fault. For example, yesterday, Mia was in a police ride-along, and 2 people were arrested for, I guess, bickering at each other. So the officer can't really determine that until later on.
Thank you.
And in the case of the accident, they would both be in trouble in a sense, because the one that caused the accident would be fined for that or have the penalty for that, and then the person who was on their phone was also committing a crime, so they would also have to pay for that.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. Do you have statistics solely from Gilbert on distracted driving as far as crashes and deaths go?
Yeah. When we get the ordinance passed, we will get statistics, because right now it is not illegal to do anything. So there's nothing is really recorded.
Having statistics before the ordinance is passed is like predicting a president's election before it even happened. So we can't have statistics as of right now.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question. With people who are found by police officers to be texting and driving, and fines. Are there any additional proceedings that will be involved with that, such as going to court or any additional fines based on the officer sees fit, or is it only the $100?
It will be treated as like a speeding ticket, basically. They will just have to pay the fine, and if they want to go to court, like you can with a speeding ticket, they can do that too.
And in the ordinance proposal, it also says, plus, regarding to the fine, plus any other penalty assessed authorized by the law. So we can't really alter it specifically to one case. So if we were to catch a person driving while distracted, there's the fine by itself as a basis, and then any other that would apply as well.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Staff, is there a definition of driving? Could someone be using a phone while their vehicle is not moving? And also, would there be increased penalty for multiple offenses?
Going off other ordinances in other states, it's okay to be texting while if your car is off, because you're not a danger to anybody else.
Also multiple offenses that would. And regarding your question about multiple offenses, as any other law, that would increase as it adds on.
Do you have a specific amount?
Not as right now. The base is $250 if they're involved in an accident, $100 if they are not. However, if the offense is multiplied, they can either double the fine or take away their license.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Henderson, I have another question. What if a vehicle is in traffic but it is stopped, say, at a red light or a stop sign? Is that still against the ordinance?
Well, as Pradisha just mentioned, if the car is turned off, and you wouldn't turn off your car in an intersection, would you, council member?
Are there any further questions from the council? Vice Mayor Nguyen, are there any requests to speak forms from the public?
Yes, Mayor Henderson, there is one request to speak. It is Vernam Baja. Excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Please come up to the podium. Please state your name and area of residence.
I'm Varun Bajaj. I'm a Chandler resident, but I go to school in Gilbert. I just had a quick question about the ordinance. Are there any ordinances currently in place for like obviously distracted driving? So would we need one that's necessary to just cell phone usage? Because I feel if you're like obviously distracted or like swerving and stuff because of a distraction, wouldn't that work just as well?
There is currently no ordinance put in place for distracted driving. That is why we need one.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Bajaj. Are there any further questions for the staff? If there are no further questions, I now close the public hearing and bring this item back to the council for discussion. For the clarification of the council, would you please reread the exact ordinance so that we know what exactly we are voting on?
Ordinance number 10966, Section A, a person shall not operate a motor vehicle on a street while using a handheld wireless communications device to compose manually, send or read a written message for the purpose of non-voice interpersonal communication, including texting, emailing, and instant messaging while the motor vehicle is in motion. This section does not apply to any of the following persons in use of the handheld wireless communications device is made as part of their official duties. 1. Law enforcement and public safety personnel. 2. Drivers of authorized emergency vehicles. And 3. Public transit personnel. Violations of this is a non-moving civil traffic violation resulting in a ticket. If a person violating this section and the person is not involved in a motorized vehicle accident, the person is subject to a civil penalty of not less than $100 plus any other penalty assessments authorized by law. If a person violates this section and the person is involved in a motor vehicle accident, the person is subject to a civil penalty of not less than $250 plus any other penalty assessments authorized by law.
Thank you, staff.
Mayor, council, there are others, members of the staff who would like to express their opinion on this. So if we could have the prosecutor and fire chief come up and express their opinions on the matter.
Before the staff begins, I apologize, but unfortunately I must leave at this time to attend to other matters. My vice mayor will finish the meeting on my behalf. In regard to the council, all questions or requests to speak from the council, requests to ask a question, will be addressed to Vice Mayor Nguyen. Thank you for being a wonderful audience, for supporting the youth of Gilbert and their leadership endeavors, and I hope you all have a great day.
Vice Mayor and council members, I'm Jared Giesel, serving as Fire Chief for the town of Gilbert. On behalf of the fire department, I would just like to say that we are in favor of an ordinance that would help to prevent texting while driving. Our chief concern as the fire department is to prevent injuries on the road and to promote public safety, and we feel that any policy change that would allow us to better carry out that job is something that we would support. In addition to the ordinance, we feel that any public education activities that we could help to support would be a great benefit as well. Currently, we already take part in a lot of public education activities, including water safety. We already have volunteers that take part in water safety activities that essentially they go to door and hand out pamphlets and brochures that help to convey the dangers of water and children around water. And we feel that the same concept could be applied to texting while driving. Thanks.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Emma Steiger. I am the town prosecutor. In regards to a new ordinance against texting and driving, I do not believe that we need one. Our goal is to prevent accidents, and texting and driving is just one distraction that causes accidents, along with other things such as eating or having children in the car. From the prosecution's point of view, texting and driving is very hard to prove as the cause of an accident unless we were to get some type of warrant to search phone records, which would cost a lot more money. There is no other evidence to suggest that texting or the use of a phone is the cause of an accident. We do not need an ordinance just against texting and driving. There is an ordinance 693A, which states a person who drives a vehicle in reckless disregard for the safety of persons or property is guilty of reckless driving. A person convicted of reckless driving is guilty of a Class 2 misdemeanor, and this pretty much covers the results of texting and driving, which would be reckless driving. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Does the council have any questions for the staff?
Vice Mayor Nguyen, I have a question.
Proceed.
You stated that they would have no proof and they would need to check the phone records in order to prove that they were actually texting while driving. But isn't the same true with seatbelts? Because seatbelts, if not wearing a seatbelt is illegal, but how would they have proof for that?
That is true, but I mean, I don't know at this time. Sorry.
Are there any more questions? Councilmember Sapori, do we have any requests to speak at this time? No?
Vice Mayor Nguyen, we don't.
I will now close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for discussion. Council members, are there any questions?
Vice Mayor Nguyen, I do not have a question, but I do have a comment, and that I know that the mobile service provider AT&T did bring a simulator to Gilbert High School recently to simulate different situations of distracted driving, and that the students there did see that it did have a negative impact on their ability to handle a vehicle, and so I say that I am in complete support of this ordinance.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, I do not believe that we need such an ordinance. I believe that driving is an inherently risky situation, and if I might propose that different people have different ability to cope with distractions, that it falls to individual responsibility as to what activities are acceptable for driving and for not. I also believe that such an ordinance would be inappropriate because of the close proximity of other towns. If there were a person to be texting and a police person to see them, they could very easily try and get to another town where the texting activity would not be prohibited, and there would be a significant gray area for the rules changing between townships.
Thank you. Are there any more discussion? If not, then I would like to make a motion.
Vice Mayor Nguyen, I move to approve the ordinance to ban texting and driving.
Second.
Then please make your vote at this time.
The motion fails in this situation.
Then this motion did not pass. Motion has been failed. On to agenda item number 5, communications from citizens. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the town, but not on the agenda. The council's response is limited to responding criticism, asking staff to review a matter of commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Councilman Sapori, do we have any speakers at this moment?
At this time, Vice Mayor, the first speaker we will have today will be Daniel Lindner from Gilbert, Arizona, and on deck is Jacob Vatrabek.
May I have the first speaker up to the podium? I will remind you that you only have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Daniel Linder. I'm a citizen of Gilbert. And I just like to speak on the matter of texting and driving. I believe a ban on texting and driving isn't needed, but instead just increase awareness of it, awareness of the negative effects of texting and driving. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your time. Who's next?
Next up, we have Jacob Vatrabek.
Please state your name and residence of area.
My name is Jacob Vatrabek. I'm a resident of Gilbert, Arizona. Today I'd like to voice some concerns I have about our city's current state of public transportation. Right now, I feel as if our public transportation system, mainly our bus lines, are very underutilized by the citizens of Gilbert. I feel like if we both raised awareness and expanded them, we could improve upon the citizens' ability to move through our city, as it's a large city, and it's hard to move around if you do not own a car. So, that's what I propose. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Caitlin Rogers, and on deck is Talise Cervantes.
Please remember that you only have 3 minutes. Please state your name and residence of area.
My name is Caitlin Rogers, and I live in Gilbert, Arizona. I would like to offer my congratulations on the plans for development of Power Road in concurrence with Mesa and Queen Creek. I would like to know when is Higley and the Higley and Williamsfield intersection scheduled to be completed?
At this time, I do not have the answer for you, but I will come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next up, we'll hear from Talise Cervantes, and on deck is Ezra Koch.
Please state your name and residence of area.
I am Elise Cervantes from Gilbert, and yesterday I spent the day with some of the public works directors, and I went to the landfill and where they recycled and the South Arena Service Center, and it brought to my attention that they were talking about how more than half of our waste can be recycled, and if we really put more attention to what we can recycle, we can make profit of it, because our plastics, we send it to Asia and we make money off of what we send to them because they buy it off of us, and we can reuse a lot of it and save so much space on our land waste, and ethical too, like just knowing that we can help our environment. And that is all.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Ezra Koch is now up, and on deck we have Tuan No.
You will have 3 minutes. Please state your name and residence of area.
Hello, I'm Ezra Koch, and I am a citizen and/or resident in the town of Gilbert. I would like to touch base on the texting and driving issue. Like they said before, it is more than just texting and driving. It's mainly distractions with cell phones. I understand this is a difficult ordinance to pass, but with personal experiences, I've witnessed 2 accidents, I believe over on Power and Germain and Power and Ray, due to someone texting and driving, and I've also witnessed a few distractions on my ride-along. One of the vehicles almost hit another when he was making a right turn while he was texting and driving, and a vehicle was making a left turn. So that's all I have for you.
Thank you for voicing your concern.
Thank you.
And now we have Tuan No.
You will have 3 minutes. Please state your name and area of residence.
My name is Tuan No. I'm a resident in Mesa, Arizona, and my concern is about fields and lighting. I spend most of my time outdoors, either running or doing other physical exercises, and I've noticed that when it gets dark, kids are still playing outside in parks that do not have sufficient lighting. So I propose that we incorporate more fields, such as soccer fields or football fields, with better lighting. Thank you.
Thank you for voicing your opinion. We will definitely look into that. Are there any more, Councilmember Sapora?
There's no more requests to speak at this time.
At this time, if you would like to request a form to speak, please fill out a form in the back and turn it in. If there are none at this time, then this will conclude the 2013 Student Government Days. Thank you to all who have came and participated, and a bigger thank you to the wonderful staff that took us underneath their wing. Meeting has been adjourned.
We're supposed to make a motion to